In 2016, there were 5,712 reports of missing Indigenous women and girls in the United States. Out of those staggering numbers, the Department of Justice only logged 116 of those cases in their national database. And because of this extreme underreporting, it is nearly impossible to estimate how many Indigenous women and girls actually go missing or are murdered every year. Today, I want to discuss the case of 19-year-old Sonya Ivanoff. And Sonya grew up in a small Alaskan town. I really tried to look up the pronunciation, Unalakleet, Alaska. It was very small. She lived with her parents and 5 siblings. Her mom said she always put a spark into people's lives. Her brother said she was the one you went to when you wanted to be uplifted. In 2002, Sonya graduated high school and she knew she wanted to go to college in Hawaii, but she had to earn some money to save up. That's the thing about Sonya. She was determined and hardworking. She was willing to save up and spend a little time working in order to achieve her goals. So at 18 years old, Sonya and her best friend Timmery moved out to Nome, Alaska. It was about 145 to 150 miles from home, and her sister lived out there. She got a job working at a local hospital. It was great being closer to her sister and now living with her best friend. On the evening of August 10th, 2003, Sonya and Timmery were at a friend's house hanging out, and around 1 a.m., Sonya wasn't feeling well and was ready to leave. She went outside, and the last anyone saw her, she was walking down the street in the rain towards the apartment she and Timmery shared. Depending on the report you read, Sonya was heading towards the direction of the home, but she wasn't going home just yet. The reports say she was not feeling well. She was ready to go home and call it a night. But whatever Sonya's plans were, if she was directly going home or not, she never made it back home. On August 12, 2003, after calling Sonya's family, Timmery went to the local police department to report Sonya missing. She told officers the last time anyone had seen her was essentially the early morning hours of August 11th when Sonya left their friend's house to walk in the direction of their home. So after receiving this call, officers went to the apartment that Sonya and Timmery shared, and when they found that all of Sonya's belongings were still there, they knew it was serious. She wouldn't have just left without taking anything with her. That's the thing with a lot of cases where people go missing. You can tell when someone has not made any effort to collect their things before going somewhere, and I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, most people who don't have any reason to just up and leave not ditch their things and run off. What are they going to run off with? And in this case, police knew that the situation was not good, and they recognized that Sonya likely hadn't been home since she went to hang out with friends. Local police assembled a search and rescue team on August 13th. The entire community banded together, scouring the town looking for any sign of Sonya, and later that evening, the same day the search for Sonya began, someone located her body approximately 10 feet from an isolated road that was about 2 miles north of Nome. She was fully nude except for one sock. It had rained the night before, so she had essentially been washed clean of most, if not all, evidence. She did have a mark on her face like she had been hit, but other than that, there were no other apparent injuries. Because Nome was so small, they really didn't have the resources to properly investigate this case. They had to call in the Alaskan State Troopers, which would also give them access to the crime lab. The Alaskan State Troopers were notified by 10:30 that evening, and they weren't expected to arrive until the next day. The Nome police were afraid it would rain again, or there was the possibility of animal activity destroying the scene, so they had to attempt to cover anything and everything to avoid losing any more possible evidence. When Sonya's family was notified, it was absolutely devastating. Her brother said that night the northern lights were so bright and the lowest he had ever seen them, it was as if his sister was dancing all around them. The next day, August 14th, the Alaskan State Troopers arrived in Nome. Sonya was examined once again, and it was determined she had been shot in the head. The reason the Nome Police Department couldn't tell she had been shot was due to the thickness of her hair concealing the wound. The surrounding scene had a few pieces of evidence. There was a pool of blood in the road, some tire tracks, and a tree branch that had blue paint transfer, which meant it was possible the killer had driven out to the secluded area, taken Sonya's life, and had scratched their car on this tree branch. Sonya was flown to Anchorage for an autopsy where it was determined she had in fact been killed from the gunshot wound to her head, which came from a .22 caliber weapon. While Sonya was being examined, investigators in Nome had to come up with a list of possible suspects and try to gather any information about who Sonya knew who might have done this to her, which wasn't easy because Sonya was very well liked and she didn't have any enemies. Investigators went back to her apartment where they found some photos and a videotape. In these photos, they found an image of Sonya with a bruise on her arm, and after speaking with Timmery, they learned Sonya had been wrestling around with a guy named Kunik, and that is how she received that bruise. Now, I tried to check. I don't know if they were legitimately wrestling around with each other in a playful way or what the situation was, but Kunik was known to have a short temper. He didn't have the best reputation, and oddly enough, he had a blue truck. A warrant was obtained to search Kunik's truck, where they found bloody sneakers as well as some guns and a blue tarp with a large amount of blood on it. While his truck was being searched, Kunik was brought in for questioning, where he claimed he hadn't seen or spoken to Sonya in over 2 weeks, and the blood found was from a recent hunting trip where he had killed a porcupine. He also claimed he wasn't alone during the hunt, so police tracked down his friend, who confirmed his story. They even showed investigators this porcupine they had killed, so everything seemed to be checking out. After a closer look, it was confirmed that the blood in his truck and on his sneakers was in fact animal blood, and the blue paint didn't match his truck either, so Koenig was cleared of any involvement. During this investigation, a local woman named Florence came forward to share with police information she had about the night Sonya was last seen. However, police never followed up with her about this information until they realized they didn't have any more leads to go on. And what police learned is this information Florence had about the night Sonya was last seen was vital information that would break the case wide open, and they should have followed up with her in the first place. According to Florence, she and a friend were sitting on their porch when they saw Sonya walk past them. Florence said hi, Sonya said hi back, but as Sonya continued to walk down the street, a police car approached her and slowed down. Sonya and this cop were talking, and then she got into his car and they drove off. This is a very, very small town. There were 7 police officers and a chief. On the night that Sonya was killed, only 2 of those officers were on duty, Stan Piscoya and Matthew Owens. Alaskan state troopers wanted to fly these 2 officers out to Anchorage to properly interview them and get them to take polygraph tests, but the night before they were scheduled to go out to Anchorage, a police car, number 321, suddenly went missing. This police car belonged to Officer Byron Redburn. He knew that he had not misplaced it. He figured some kids had stolen it to play a prank, and as he and some other officers were out looking for it, the police radio came on, and what do you know? It was Officer Matt Owens. He said that he had just located the stolen car. It was near a sand and gravel mine, and there had been shots fired. Someone was trying to shoot at him. Officers rushed to the scene where they found Matt unharmed, and no one else was there. It seemed very convenient that the night before he was supposed to go to Anchorage to be interviewed, this police car suddenly went missing, and he was the one to find it, and someone was trying to shoot him. Even more convenient, inside the passenger seat was an envelope. Inside that envelope was an ID card that belonged to Sonya and a threatening letter which indicated that whoever wrote it hated cops and Sonya was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was asked to reenact what exactly had happened. It was clear that whatever Matt was saying had happened was not adding up. Fellow officers knew that Matt had likely staged the scene to appear like the car was stolen because he just so happened to be the one who located it, and as he found the car, someone began shooting at him. They told him there was no way he would still be alive if all of this really happened. He would have definitely been shot. While Matt tried to maintain his innocence, police had enough evidence against him to arrest him. The bullet that had killed Sonya had this rare pattern, same rare pattern as a Jennings .22 pistol that Matt would have had access to in the police evidence room. They also got word from Matt's landlord that she saw Sonya's ID card and wallet in Matt's living room. Police also knew that sometime after Sonya was killed, Matt had been seen burning items in a burn pit. When that burn pit was examined, they found many items that had been on Sonya the night she was last seen, including some buttons from the brand of jeans Sonya was wearing. Police knew the brand of jeans Sonya was wearing because she had borrowed them from Timmery. After Matt Owens was arrested, many other women came forward to share their stories of how Matt Owens had sexually harassed them while he was on duty. He threatened to kill them if they ever said anything, and now that he was in custody, they were finally able to tell their story. With this information, police suspected that while Matt was on patrol that night, he saw Sonya, picked her up, and when she was in the car, he tried to ask her for It was never officially determined if Sonya had been SA'd. However, police believe that Matt probably tried to, and when Sonya told him no, and maybe even told him she would tell, he decided to take her life. If you were to ask me my opinion, you don't just leave someone without clothes if you didn't SA them. But of course, because nothing has ever been confirmed, all I can do is speculate. November 4th, 2003, Matthew Owens was indicted on murder in the first degree, but the trial ended with a hung jury and it was declared a mistrial. Sonya's brother said he knew from the beginning that Nome was not the place to have the trial because a lot of those jurors attended the same church as Matt. They knew him. They didn't think he was capable of doing something like this, which in these cases, it is always that unsuspecting person. It is always that person in power who does things exactly like this. Because of the mistrial, the second trial was moved to Fairbanks, where he was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to 101 years in prison. In 2007, the Sonya Ivanoff bill was signed into law in Alaska, and this law mandates a maximum sentence for first-degree murder to any officer who murders someone on duty. Sonya was 19 years old. She had her entire life ahead of her. She was planning for her future. She was doing everything right, and this man who used his position of power to not only SA multiple other women took her life. If you have made it to the end of this video, I appreciate every single one of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and listen to Sonya's story. If you have a case you would like me to cover, feel free to comment that as well. As always, I appreciate every single one of you guys and all of your support that you have given me. I look forward to seeing you in another video.